Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Chop It Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Josh,
And I'm Mark.
and we are two mates who like to chop it up and talk gaming way too much. And we thought maybe if we post this on the internet, someone will listen to us. And so far, we've had a few listeners. So isn't that a win, Mark?
Cracking the big 5-0 on the YouTube. Very happy about that. Very pleased to everyone that's listening. We love you. Keep listening, man.
We're on,
We got big things planned.
we're on the way to greatness. Even though most of our listeners are people we know, we're on the way to greatness. Um, Please join us every week as we discuss the latest in gaming news. We have a great show for you today. We will be talking about the Game Awards, which are happening in 1 week. And this time we will be discussing and chopping it up with the discussion of all of the trailers and announcements that we are very hyped to see this year. It's going to be a good show. We're going to chop it up with 3 predictions of what we think we will see at the Game Awards, as well as later on, we'll talk about 3 things that we would absolutely love to see, but we really don't think we're going to get to see them. Mark, shall we jump straight into this?
Yep. Hopefully we don't get another please wrap it up situation with the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley, we're trusting you. No more rock advertisements. But I'm keen
It's okay.
to.
I think it's fair, like you have your game of the year winner, you let
Yeah.
them speak for like 20 seconds and then you
Oh,
cut
yeah.
to like a 5-minute ad, right? Like it's important to get those ads in.
Very important. Make that money. Make that dough.
Make that money, exactly. No, we are hyped because we know that every year at the Game Awards we get a lot of trailers and announcements for new games
Oh
and
yeah.
games that we are hyped to play in the coming years.
That's for
And
sure.
Mark, I want to start it off
Yep.
with 3 predictions each on things that
Ooh.
we think we will see for the Game Awards. Now, there's a lot of very safe predictions we could make. We could
Yep.
predict that we're probably going to see Assassin's Creed, but we're probably not going to talk about that. I want you to talk about the things that you think you will see and that you're quite hyped to see. Hit me with one.
Okay, I'm going to start off with one that I think we will see. So we're going to stay within the realms of realism, stay pragmatic. Going
Mm-hmm.
Ghost of Yotai. I feel like we get another
Ghost of
trailer.
Yote.
Think we'll get another trailer for that one. What do you think?
What do you think we will see from Ghost of Yote? So if I'm thinking about that game, they announced it a couple months ago
Yep.
with a reveal trailer,
Yep.
obviously showcasing, a good idea of what the graphics will look like, the visuals, but no gameplay. Are you expecting to see gameplay from that already? Because to me that feels quite early.
Well, it's scheduled to release next year, and another game that's scheduled to release next year that you've mentioned already, the new Assassin's Creed Shadow, which is those 2 games are going to go head to head with each other. Obviously, I don't think they're going to release in the same part of the year, but we know Assassin's Creed Shadow will most likely be there. I think it's a great opportunity to show how clear Sucker Punch are currently of Ubisoft. And so, yeah, I think we'll get a gameplay trailer, and I think it's going to look good. I think it's going to look good.
So you think this is Sony's chance to go, hey, we know that Assassin's Creed game is coming out, but
Yeah,
come buy our console and you can play like the better version of it, the better
exactly.
Assassins in Japan kind of game.
Yep, 1,000%.
I could see
Assassin's
it.
Creed were 5 years too late with the Japan thing. Five
Yeah,
years too late.
the fan base was asking for it for a long time, right? And
That's
then
right.
Ghost of Tsushima kind of came in, made the game that those people wanted,
Yep.
and it does feel like, yeah, Assassin's Creed are definitely behind the curve here. And Ghost of Yote seems interesting in the idea that they didn't do a direct sequel. They've done a game which is set, is it I think 400 years later, brand new character, brand new area of Japan, obviously same gorgeous graphics, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the bold choice, and I think it's a choice. It's the right choice as well, really. I just wanted to ask you very quickly, what were your thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima, and are you excited about Ghost of Yote?
Yeah, so I've played a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima.
Uh huh.
It's a cool game. It's obviously, as I've said, very beautiful. I think the sword combat was pretty cool. I think maybe the main issue where I kind of didn't get exactly hooked on the game is probably the open world design. It's quite um, by the numbers. It's very similar to a game like Horizon or a Ubisoft game.
Yep.
So I didn't get too far into it because of that. But like the core mechanics and the obviously the visuals and yeah the combat systems, they're pretty good. It's not comparable to something like Sekiro, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool game, and I'm excited for Yote to see what they do with it. Like what I would want to see is a game that expands on the combat mechanics and probably is a bit more creative with the open world design and the quest design and not just having those repetitive tasks scattered across the map, but a game
100%.
that more encourages you to properly explore. And I'll go on a little rant here, but I don't think that the win mechanic really encourages you to explore. It's similar to a mini map in the sense that a mini map, you look at the mini map, you follow the line on it, and it takes you where you need to go. In this, you don't look at a mini map, you just look at the win, but you're still following something. You're not genuinely going off in your own direction and exploring different corners. You're still following something that directs you to a place. So I think that's a controversial opinion, but I don't think that mechanic is necessarily um, genre defining or like genre breaking for the open world genre.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima to me is one of the most overrated games of all time. And don't get me wrong, it's a fine game. It's fine. Its combat is fine. Its open world is fine. But people were putting it on the pedestal of The Last of Us 2 because it released a couple months after The Last of Us 2, and obviously Last of Us 2 received a lot of hate for its story. But people were putting Ghost of Tsushima on that sort of level, and it's not even close. I mean, as you say, I mean, I think you were we weren't too harsh on them on the stuff like combat, but go play Ghost of Tsushima combat and then go play Sekiro's combat. Ghost of Tsushima is like a baby's first samurai game sort of thing.
But it's not trying to be similar to Sekiro. Sekiro is designed to be hard.
I'm not talking about its difficulty at all. I mean, because you could play Ghost of Tsushima on the lethal difficulty where you'll get one shot and you can one shot people. I actually think that's very cool, by the way. But in
Yeah.
terms of the enemy design, which I think makes or breaks a lot of combat systems, um, it's just very, very basic throughout. I mean, I got 20, 25 hours in, and the variation on enemies was so minuscule. It got boring really quick, and as you say, the um, open world mechanics are, yeah, I mean, a Ubisoft game at the end of the day, with very checklisty, very repetitive tasks throughout, and not much incentive to go after those um, sort of side quests. And yeah, I mean, like again, it's a fine game, but it's a very basic game. I think that if it released 5 or 6 years ago, when everyone wanted Ubisoft to make one, it would have been heralded as one of the best games of all time. Really, like five or
I
six
mean, it
years.
did release 4 years ago,
Oh, okay. No, sorry.
four and
From
a half.
5 to 6 years ago from when it released. Sorry.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so I'm talking like when Assassin's Creed 2 was out, all that sort of Assassin's Creed 3, when Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed was at its peak, if they came out with a Ghost of Tsushima game. I mean, because the structure of it is very similar to those games. Obviously, the map is a lot bigger and a lot more beautiful, but a lot of that is driven by the art direction, not necessarily the texture fidelity and stuff. So it's something they could have pulled off in that era. And I think it's a great game for that era, but I mean, we've progressed, I think.
Yeah, I think especially after you've had Breath of the Wild, you've had
Yeah,
Elden Ring, you've
exactly.
had Tears of the Kingdom, you've got these massive open world, big budget games that actually let the player off the leash. They trust you to explore and find things, and they don't tell you where to go. They don't mark your map with all the different points of interest. They don't have a mini map or a
Yeah.
wind mechanic directing you where to go. They actually just let you explore, and I think that's where open worlds need to go.
Yeah, it's a
And
it's
I
a
would hope
fine
to see
six
more
out
of
of
that.
seven, 6 or 7 out of 10, really.
Damn,
That's where
that's
I
a
would
hot
put
take.
it.
You've just pissed off the whole internet. Lucky the whole internet's not listening to this.
I mean, if we get big and they go back to this podcast, I'm kind of fucked.
Yeah, yeah, you're cancelled.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
well,
saying. Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
yeah, no, it's a good call. I'm personally, I'm not sure whether we'll see it. I'm not sure if it's too early after the reveal, but I can see your reasoning. I think maybe we see it more towards the middle of next year after Assassin's Creed has dropped. But who knows? You could be right.
I mean,
Um,
because like it's scheduled to release next year. I don't know if it will
I
though.
imagine end of next year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the first one dropped around August, but they'd probably be targeting
I think they
later in the year.
target the end
Yeah.
of the year. It's probably their big end of year game, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Anyway, what do you think we'll see at the Game Awards?
Yeah, so let's stay on the Sony theme. I think we get an announcement for a new game by Insomniac,
Yeah.
and I think it's either going to be an announcement of it's either going to be an announcement of a Venom spin-off, or we're going to get a proper look at Wolverine. We're going to get one of those two things. So I'll kind of go through my reasoning here.
Mhm.
So we know that about a year ago, I think there was a big leak at Insomniac, right?
Yep.
And we kind of got an idea of their future plans. So we know that kind of as of around a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, they were considering a kind of Miles Morales sized spin-off focused on Venom. I'm guessing probably set after Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And so the initial leak kind of had that set as 2025. If that is still happening, I would guess that they're going to have to announce it soon, and this is probably the perfect place to do it. So I could definitely see Venom being announced with, kind of like an end of 2025 release date, Miles Morales sized game. Um, yeah, I could see that happening. If that is not on the cards anymore, I imagine that they probably want to get some gameplay um, on the internet for Wolverine, and that is because that game was announced 3 years ago with the trailer, cinematic trailer. They haven't said
Three
anything
years.
since. 3 years,
Wow, it's
2021. They
been a
announced that
long time.
September 2021. So over
Wow.
3 years.
Mm.
Yep. They haven't shown anything since. And because of those leaks, there's a bunch of leaked, unfinished gameplay of Wolverine floating around on YouTube. And I can imagine that if you're Sony, when people Google Wolverine gameplay, you don't want them seeing your unfinished game. You want them seeing a nice, sexy trailer. So I think there's also a very good chance that they'll put some kind of gameplay trailer out for Wolverine, because all those leaks are out there on the internet, and presumably it's coming within maybe the next 2 years, given it was announced so long ago. What do you think? Which one of those? Do you think both? Neither?
I
One of
think
them?
I'm leaning towards Venom, to be honest. I think with the leaks with Wolverine, the extent of those leaks are probably the worst I've ever seen. I think it was probably even worse than GTA 6 because I don't know if you even
Yeah.
recall this, but there is a playable demo of Wolverine that you could play and download on your PC.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The extent of the leaks were very, very widespread. So that's going to require a lot of reworking to kind of preserve the sanctity of that game. So I'm not expecting anything for Wolverine in a really long time, to be honest. I mean, it'd be great because I mean the whole vibe of Wolverine I think suits a game very, very well. I don't know if you remember X-Men Origin Wolverine, which was a movie
That was
split.
a really good game.
Really fun game. I played that as a kid at
Terrible
my
movie.
cousin's house. Yeah, I don't I haven't even seen the movie, so I don't even know. But the game was fun
Terrible
as
movie.
hell.
Great game.
Yeah. Um. So I think a Venom spin-off is more likely because given we've seen nothing about that, and I presume the development for that, given it's a spin-off like Miles Morales, the development timeline for that isn't going to be very long. And in fact, I think it's going to spoiler alert for Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man 2, one of the side quests, I think to do with Carnage, ends with some of the symbiote getting out. I think doing Venom spin-off that leads off that sort of idea where it's going to be Venom versus Carnage or something along those lines kind of suits very, very perfectly and maybe explains why we haven't seen a Spider-Man 2 DLC yet. It could be very well that the DLC grew into something larger where they wanted to make it its own spin-off game or something like that, of course. I think we get that first before Wolverine kind of wrap up the Spider-Man 2 saga before moving on to something completely separate. But I'd be really happy with either. So keen to see
Yeah,
if they
I'm
bring
I'm
something out.
I'm glad you brought up Spider-Man 2 DLC, because something that was part of those leaks was a Spider-Man 2 DLC, which was separate to this kind of proposed
Oh, I
Venom
see.
spin-off. And that's been confirmed not to be happening now. So obviously they were thinking about it. I think there was even an update to Spider-Man 2, which like you could get into some kind of developer mode and you could see the DLC tab in the menu.
Mm.
So they were clearly working on it at one point, but they've obviously cancelled it because they've come out and said there's not going to be any DLC for Spider-Man 2. But I totally agree with you. I think think if there is a Venom game, if it's still going to happen, if it's not going to get cancelled like that Spider-Man 2 DLC, yeah, it's probably going to involve Carnage. It would be crazy if they didn't go that route.
Yeah,
Um, so Venom versus Carnage, nice big CG slash in-engine trailer for the Game Awards. Yeah, I can see that happening and
yeah,
getting a lot of people very excited.
yeah, for sure.
All right, let's talk about your second pick. What else do you think we might see that you're also excited to see?
One that I think we'll definitely see, and I'm very, very excited to see, is Borderlands 4. I'm frothing that game so hard. I think I've played every Borderlands game to date, including. Oh, actually, I haven't played the pre-sequel, which is One Set on the Moon. But I played Borderlands 1, 2, 3, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I've played a bunch of the Borderlands 2 DLC. I've played a bunch of the Borderlands 3 DLC. I'm an absolute fiend for it. So very keen to see what they come out with next. I think they're going to need to refresh the formula a little bit. I did start getting a bit of burnout when I replayed Borderlands 2 again this year with one of my mates. So, yeah, I mean, they're in a very enviable position, I think, because they're at a stage where they don't have to kind of constantly redefine their loop. Their loop is kind of set in stone. Everyone knows what they're getting with a Borderlands game. But also at the same time, they're going to have to figure out ways to keep me fresh, but also some new creative
They could bring
guns.
in the movie cast. Hey, people would love
Yeah,
that.
oh, dude, make Kevin Hart a playable character. Wow, I'm buying it instantly. Wow, I'm. Was Jack
Uh,
Black in that movie as well?
was
Was
he?
Jack Black?
I don't think it was it.
Maybe I'm getting
Kate
confused with the
Blanchett.
Minecraft movie.
Isn't it?
Probably getting
Yeah,
confused with
Jack Black is in the Minecraft movie.
Yeah, but look, they'll probably if they come out with a trailer, there'll be some crazy ass guns. There'll be really cool vistas, and I'll be like, "Fuck, I'm in." And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea because again, it's probably same recycled thing over and over again. But great games, very addicting.
So, so yeah, you're definitely much more of a Borderlands fan than I am.
Yeah,
So, fill me in on like, do we know anything about this game, and also how confident are you in this game? Because I know there was a bit of like Borderlands fans tend to not like Borderlands 3 as much as Borderlands 2. Is that
yeah.
right? What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have a lot of faith for Borderlands 4 still, or are you kind of in the camp of like you're a bit nervous about it?
Oh yeah, so I think Borderlands 3 is definitely weaker than Borderlands 2, and the main reason for that is a lot of the writing is very, very cringy. But for me, hot take, a lot of people like the writing of Borderlands 2, but I also find that a bit cringy, so I don't really that side of things. I've never been too hot on Borderlands, but I think the main reason for me personally why Borderlands 3 is not Borderlands 2 level is Borderlands 2 is more of like a big world that you're stuck on Pandora the whole time, and there's different regions of Pandora and that sort of thing. Borderlands 3 was set up in a way where you kind of travel to smaller, more dense locations, and
Hmm.
I felt a bit of disconnect there, which kind of drew me out of the world a little bit. And for that reason, I preferred Borderlands 2. And I thought, just generally speaking, a very important part of this game, of these sorts of games, are the way they provide loot to you and the rate at which they provide loot. And it should
Yep.
be on like a sliding scale where you feel you're getting more powerful, you're getting good legendaries at good times that keep you hooked. I thought Borderlands 3's a whole loot system was kind of busted. Like, I got a million legendaries, and when a legendary did drop, I wasn't even really excited as much. Whereas Borderlands 2 dropped them at a rate where when you got a legendary, it was this big event. But don't get me started on Tiny. That whole loot system in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is the D&D spin-off for Borderlands, for
Yep.
anyone wondering. Yeah, that loot system was... But they introduced a thing where if you found this
It was good
special...
or bad?
Really bad. Busted as hell.
Why? Why was it bad? Explain to me,
I...
because I know nothing about
Well, like,
about this game.
I played 25, 30 hours to beat Tiny Tina with a bunch of different side quests as well. So I played it for a long, long while, and the best legendary I got was a grenade. The only legendary I got, sorry, was a grenade
You weren't
legendary.
being rewarded enough.
Yeah, I didn't get a single
Isn't it?
legendary gun. That's ridiculous in a
Yeah,
Borderlands game. It's just ridiculous.
because
There's a
that's the fun of the game, right?
Yeah, so there's a sliding scale. I think Borderlands 2 nailed it. Borderlands 3 leaned too much in giving you too many legendaries, and Tiny Tina's didn't give you any at all. So Yeah, like a lot of that is very mechanical in terms of sort of like algorithms they have in place. Um, so they need to fine tune that more. But I think the success of the game will more hinge on again the writing. If we're going off the Borderlands movie, I think we're in trouble. But
Hmm.
also, I think the combat loop. So there's a clear distinction between Borderlands 3 and Borderlands 2. Borderlands 3 has a much better gunplay, movement, that sort of thing, which is to be expected. There's a pretty significant gap between them. So
Yep.
whether they can make another leap in terms of how the game feels to play and the guns they provide you, it'll most likely hinge on that. And also, I hope the open world is more immersive.
So it sounds like, updated movement, gunplay mechanics,
Yeah,
obviously prettier graphics, and then have that kind of higher tier writing that you've seen in some of the past games,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then probably the community is pretty happy with Borderlands 4.
Yeah, they've got a certain checklist they need to check off, and people will be happy. I mean, yeah, as I say, Borderlands is
Mhm.
Borderlands. I think people that are locked into Borderlands,
Yeah,
um, yeah, they don't require too much to be happy. Maybe compared to other fan bases.
fair enough. Yeah, I guess yeah, it's one of those cases where as long as you just get the core stuff right, the fan base will be happy.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, um, I have probably maybe a bit of a different change of direction here. I think you had a very nice solid idea. I think I'm got a bit of a vague one here, which is that every single year at the Game Awards, except for 2022, Microsoft have taken one of their big games, and I
Yep.
think they're going to do it again. And to give you a bit of background here, in 2023 they announced Blade. In 2022 they brought nothing, and people got really mad.
Yeah.
In 2021 they brought Hellblade 2 gameplay. In 2020 they announced Perfect Dark, and in 2019 they announced the Xbox Series X plus Hellblade 2, which was the very first next gen game we ever saw.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so that's Microsoft's track record, and I have to imagine that Microsoft is going to bring gameplay from one of their big games again this year. And I have two bets, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts on, I guess, like which one you think might show up or which one you're most excited to see.
Yep.
I think we're going to see gameplay from either Fable or Doom the Dark Ages.
Hmm.
I had a big rant on our very first episode of the podcast about how excited I am for Doom the Dark Ages. So I am really crossing my fingers that they'll show some more gameplay from that. I think maybe the tricky part there is that we have already seen that
Yeah.
initial announcement trailer. It did give us a good sense of some of the gameplay. So I'm not sure how they could be different because that was only 6 months ago. Maybe they can give us more of like an extended trailer with some more extended gameplay snippets. But maybe if I'm thinking about that, maybe that's not so much of a Game Awards thing. Um, it's more of a like Xbox Game Showcase kind of thing. Um, so little hit or miss. I would love to see Doom, but maybe this ain't the show for it. And then if I'm thinking about Fable, I feel like we've got a few trailers for this game. I think back to 2020, that was the very first announcement of this game, and it was like kind of like it was it was almost like kind of a joke. It was like a funny trailer to really set the tone to say, hey, like you remember these games from the 2000s that had this like kind of wacky sense of British humor. Yeah, we're bringing it back, and we've had a few more trailers since then. But I still don't feel like I have a good sense of what the gameplay of Fable is going to be. Is it going to be similar to like a Witcher 3 kind of RPG with some of the humor of the old Fable games? Is it going to bring in some of the mechanics of the old Fable games with like you had these like good and evil systems where it was almost a bit comical, the degrees to which like your characters could become good or evil. So I think maybe Fable's a nice opportunity for them to show what that game's really going to be and what the gameplay looks like in again a short like 3 to 4 minute trailer, but they could I think they could give us a good sense of what that game's going to be. What do you think? Do you think Microsoft's going to bring a game? Do you think it's going to be one of those two, or do you have other ideas on what they might bring?
Well, I think you're more the Xbox expert here. So for me, I've never even played a Fable game. In terms of what I think they'll bring, I think Fable makes more sense, given what you said about them already showing gameplay for Doom: The Dark Ages, and there's already been two Doom games. I think people know how it's gonna go. People are already hyped for it. I don't think they need another trailer to sell people on it. But with Fable, yeah, the game looks amazing in terms of like its graphics, graphical
Yeah.
fidelity, and things like that. But again, for me to be sold on it, I need to know what Fable plays like, and we haven't seen that yet. Something interesting you brought up is in 2019. So they brought the console. That was the announcement for the Game Awards.
They announced the console and they showed off Hellblade 2 as being like, a game that was going to be on the console.
I reckon they could bring out the Xbox Series X Pro, maybe.
Oh, they've already said they're not doing that.
Oh, they already said they're not doing it.
Well,
Really?
but also they lie a lot. But I really don't see them doing it. I think
Ah,
I
okay.
think they're all steam ahead on next gen. I think they're probably going to launch a next gen early. That sounds like
Ah,
that's
okay.
what some of the rumors have been saying
Hmm.
over the past year. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
interesting.
think I think with Fable, what I'd want to see is I want to get an idea of what do the combat systems look like in that game, and what do the RPG systems look like. I think what people loved about those old Fable games was the choices and the way that your character, like I think the original Fable game was sold on this promise of like you could plant a tree and you could see it grow as your character kind of grew up and stuff like that. So I
Oh
think
wow.
in the spirit of that, like people want to be able to understand like how deep the RPG or the role playing mechanics will be in the new Fable. And also, I think like with any game, you kind of want to get a sense of what the combat's going to look like. So I think that would be nice, like a short trailer that kind of showcases some of these aspects beyond just like I feel like the trailers we've had so far have just been kind of hinting at like this is the tone of the game. It's going to be funny. It's going to be a bit wacky. It's going to be really pretty. But like give us a sense of those kind of core combat and those RPG mechanics, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah. You have any other thoughts on Microsoft? I mean, my only other one is, and this is not going to happen, but it's not in my three wishes. You know, maybe they would bring the next Halo. They recently announced that 343 has become Halo Studios, and they're going to be making Halo in Unreal. And I think it's very heavily implied that maybe the next game is going to be a remake of Combat Evolved. Do you think it's too early to
I think we're
see the
too far
next
away.
Halo?
Yeah, I think we're way too far away. Because I think
Yeah,
it requires a lot of manpower to completely switch engines.
yeah,
I think they're still tinkering. But I would say that maybe remaking a game is a good opportunity for them to come to grips with that engine. So I think Combat
I
Evolved
agree.
next makes sense. And for someone that hasn't completed Combat Evolved yet, I know, um, would be really fun, I think, to play the remake of that.
Yeah, I'm excited if that's where they're going with it. The Halo story's been a bit of a mess since 343 took over. So on that front, like a new Halo game's exciting, but especially story-wise, it's not as exciting as it used to be. So I think a Halo Combat Evolved remake is a really nice opportunity to reset the franchise, get a whole bunch of new fans in, especially PlayStation fans if it drops on PlayStation. Get them in, get them introduced to this world, the story that everyone else, who's been playing Halo like for 20 years, we all love that story, but bring new people in, and I think maybe this is a controversial take, but refresh the mechanics, right? Like Infinite plays amazingly. Bring some of those mechanics into Halo CE. The
Oh, that would
original
be
game,
so good. Yeah.
you can still play the original game on the MCC. That exists. It already had a remake. We don't need to just do the same game with better graphics. Like, let's actually update it. Let's fix some of the problems with the back half, like the repetitive levels. Let's
Library. The library. That's where I fell
yeah,
off.
yeah. Let's update the core mechanics. Bring in some more guns, but keep the story the same. Don't make it like
Yep.
the Halo TV show. You know. Let's do that. But yeah, I mean to bring it back to the conversation, yeah, I don't think this is coming at the Game Awards. I think it's too early. I think probably Microsoft announces it at their mid-year show next year, and they're probably targeting end of 2026 for Halo's 25th anniversary. Would be my guess.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. My hot take around Halo is Halo 4 is good. Sue me.
Oh yeah, I'll fight you on that, but maybe
Maybe
today's
another
not
time.
the
Maybe another
day.
time.
Not the day. Um, Excellent. So I think you've got one more prediction on what you think we will see. Do you
Yep.
want to tell me what it is?
Okay. I'm going to preface this with I know this won't make a lot of sense given the history of this certain developer, but I just think it makes so much sense. I think we're going to get another GTA 6 trailer. I really do. I really believe in my heart of hearts we're going to get another GTA 6 trailer. Not a gameplay trailer. I think Rockstar will save that for their classic sort of ramp up towards release. I think we'll get
Hmm.
that maybe. I think it's usually 3 or 4 months before release. They'll
Yep.
do gameplay trailers back to back. But I think we'll get another story trailer. There's been a lot of rumors about them allegedly delaying the game further, which have been kind of refuted by people on the board of Take Two.
Yep.
Um, so I reckon they come in with another story trailer, get everyone hyped. I mean, they're gonna have so many concurrent viewers at on that live stream and people live and all that sort of stuff. Why not get people more hyped for the most anticipated game probably ever?
And you get people more hyped. I don't know if you can.
You
I
totally
think
can,
the
man.
I
You,
think the world is extremely hyped.
now you do another 1 minute in engine trailer.
Hmm.
People get way more hyped. It gives people content to feed on for another 3 or 4 months before the next trailer drop.
So,
Analyzing every mic, every pixel on that trailer.
oh yeah, it'll be dissected to death.
Yep.
I'm I'm half in agreement with you. I think we'll get a second GTA 6 trailer really soon. It's
Not.
actually it's I think this week is the 1 year anniversary of that first trailer, which pulled, God, I can't remember, but it broke records in terms of like first day viewers for a gaming trailer. It's one of the most viewed YouTube videos, right? Like, or
Yeah.
fastest viewed. Yeah, it's been a year. It's time. I think they usually have a pattern where they kind of drop a trailer about 2 years before release. Now, usually when they drop that first trailer, it's 1 year before release, and then they delay it. So hopefully they've learned. They're like, okay, yeah, we're just going to announce it 2 years early this time.
Yeah.
So they announce it 2 years early, and then they usually release another trailer a year after that. So we're due a second trailer, but I don't think we're getting it at the Game Awards. And the reason I don't think that is because last year Rockstar were like, we don't need the Game Awards. We're just going to drop our trailer a few days before and steal all the thunder. And that's exactly what they did. I can totally just see Rockstar doing that again. They're like, why are we paying probably like it's probably close to, $1 million. It's probably six figures, right, for a trailer spot in that show. They don't need to do that. They just drop it on the internet at like, midnight American time. They'll still get like 200 million views in a week. Like,
What
I,
you're not taking into consideration is Jeff Keighley's a very powerful man. Very, very powerful.
he's
Very
not that powerful.
persuasive.
He's not as powerful as GTA. Like,
No, no,
clearly.
I'm being, I'm being stupid.
Yeah.
Jeff Keighley's not that powerful. To clear up.
Yeah. I mean, I think last year Rockstar pretty clearly showed that they don't
I,
need the Game
I
Awards.
really didn't think they dropped the trailer 2 days before. That's a power move.
I don't think it was two days, but it was in the same week or maybe a week before. Like, it was very close.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the day they dropped the trailer. That was very hype.
It
Just
leaked a
dropped.
few hours
Yeah,
early,
it leaked a few hours, and
and then they
then
dropped it.
yeah, they said, you know what,
Dropped it early.
fuck these leakers, we're just dropping it.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. We're due another GTA 6 trailer, but I don't think we're seeing it at the Game Awards. And if we don't see it within the next couple weeks, then I don't know when we're getting it because they're not going to drop it over Christmas time. And then the first few weeks of Jan, I feel like most people are on leave at Rockstar probably. So then maybe you're waiting till Jan or Feb for that second trailer. But
The
maybe we get it in the next week or two.
the other thing you're failing to take into consideration, I'm going full conspiracy mode here.
Hmm.
GTA is an anagram of TGA. So we're going to see the TGA and we're going to see the letters
Yeah,
shift and everyone's going to go freaking crazy. That's
you
what's going
got
to
me, dude.
happen. Book it.
You
Book
got
it.
me.
It's
You got me.
happening.
It's genius.
GTA 6 at the Game Awards is happening. I'll put my career on the line right now.
Confirmed.
I'll put
Confirmed.
my journalistic integrity on the line right now. GTA
Yep.
6 is appearing at the Game Awards.
You've spent a long time building up that journalistic integrity, dude. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
What are you anticipating? Sorry, not anticipating. What do you think will come on at the Game Awards?
Yeah. So my last call here. I'm
Yep.
gonna put my foot in the ground. I'm gonna say, number one, I really want this, and number two, I think it's reasonable. I think it's just about reasonable.
Yep.
Is I'm hoping we see either Naughty Dog or Santa Monica's next game announced. I'll give you my reasoning there. So Naughty Dog. It's been 4.5 years since The Last of Us Part 2.
Yep.
They had The Last of Us Online, which was cancelled.
R.I.P.
And now we know that we spoke last week. We know that they have two projects in development, single player projects, and yeah, again, it's been a long time since their last game. They've had a cancelled game, and recently they've started talking about their next game. Dropping just breadcrumbs, which again we talked about last week. We've got Neil Druckmann saying he's very excited about it. We've got Troy Baker confirming he's going to be in it. Maybe they're starting to drop some breadcrumbs because they know that it's time to announce this next game. So I could see Naughty Dog announcing their next game, and probably just with a cinematic trailer, but I could see it happening. The other possibility is Santa Monica, and this is just for the same reason, basically being that we've known for a while that the director of God of War 2018,
Corey
Corey
Barlog. Yep.
Barlog, right?
Yep.
Yep. He did not direct Ragnarok because he was working on a different project, which I think most people assume is a new IP. That's 2018, right? That's 6 years. Like, surely that project's probably it's somewhere along the line. Surely it's time for it to be announced pretty soon.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think we're definitely going to get something Santa Monica related, but I think it's
Hmm.
going to be the rumored God of War 1 to 3 remasters, which
That's
are
a good point.
overdue a remaster so badly. So
It's true.
I've been playing all the original God of Wars. So I finished Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta, which I finished on the PS Vita. Then I bought a PS3 and got the God of War collection. I finished God of War 1.
Hmm.
I'm I've been a bit burnt out on God of War, so I've taken a break before I can go finish God of War 2. But if this gets announced at the Game Awards, I'm going to put those brakes on and wait for those remasters because yeah, they're heavily overdue one. And I think it's an easy slam dunk for Sony. A very, very easy one. I don't think it would
Yeah.
require a ton of resources because it's not on the PS3 where all the code was messed up. And God of War 3 has already been remastered, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that's an easy slam dunk. As for Naughty Dog, I think Naughty Dog have in the past announced games at the Game Awards. I think The Last of Us Part 1 remake was the Game Awards thing, or was that Summer Games Fest? It was one of the
I feel
two.
like that wasn't the Game
I
Awards.
think it might.
I feel like
It
that
was
was announced very close to release, and that released in September.
yeah, I know because I remember Neil Druckmann on stage with the goat Jeff Keighley.
Yeah, it was probably Summer Games
Yeah,
Fest.
it was probably Summer Games Fest, but that shows that Naughty Dog and Jeff Keighley have a bit of a relationship, maybe. And
Yep.
so that would make sense also. It's been a long time between drinks. But to be fair, they've released The Last of Us Part 2 remake with that new grounded mode last year. Was that last year or
Yeah, that's not a game though.
But I'd be very keen on what Corey Barlow cooks up next. I think
Yeah,
he's 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 really good.
they're a
Um,
great team.
but I
Just
but I
it's
just want more God of War to be honest. I
I'm
s-
sure we'll get it, but it does seem like their next game will be something new. I think it's a Naughty Dog situation where we said last week that we think
yeah.
Naughty Dog's next game will be new, and then they probably return for The Last of Us Part 3. We're probably going to get a new game from Santa Monica, and then the next thing will be some kind of another soft reboot of God of War, like what they did with the Norse games. Probably getting some kind of new saga, right?
Yeah. I mean, did Ragnarok announce at the Game Awards?
No, Ragnarok was announced at the 2020, either
S-
2020 or 2021. I think it was 2020
Sony's thing, wasn't it?
PlayStation Showcase. Yeah,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
haven't done a showcase in ages.
Well, fun fact about that announcement: right before that showcase, Corey Barlog did a long Twitter thread about the development of God of War 2018.
Hmm.
But the first letter on each of those tweets spelt out Ragnarok is coming.
Ah, so you're
So,
saying we need to wait for him to start tweeting again?
yeah, yeah. Follow him on Twitter or Threads or whatever he's on now, or X, sorry, um,
Uh,
and maybe see what he's cooking up.
right? You've cracked the code. Just need to follow him.
I know, man. It's this big conspiracy. It's all
Yeah,
anagrams, things
yeah.
spelling out things.
But I'm glad you brought up those God of War remasters. Those rumors have been around for a few months now, and I totally forgot about them when I was writing this. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean,
I totally agree with you. I think we're going to see that, and maybe that means we're not seeing Santa Monica's next game.
Well, I think that'll be a big deal though. Like the God of War remasters will be a big deal to a lot of people because um, currently for you, because you don't have a PS3,
Yeah,
there is no way for you to experience God of War 1 and 2, which are both excellent games. Even
yeah,
God of War 1 to this day, I mean, I played on a PS3, holds up really, really well in terms of combat. Obviously, there are some sections which I want to bang my head against the wall, and it's old game designy stuff.
yep,
Um, but the remasters give an opportunity for people like you to experience them for the first time, which is great because they're great games. Very, very good. Like in terms of the writing, story, world building, and obviously the combat,
yep.
extraordinarily unique in terms of the
And having the
combination of gore.
background for the Norse games, right, as well.
Oh yeah, that'll be excellent because I think you'll view some of the events in the Norse games and kind of the themes they bring up in a
Yep.
completely new way, and probably be more enthralled by the conclusion of the Ragnarok saga.
Yeah,
Give it like if you know where Kratos came from, came
yeah,
from a very dark place. Let's just put it
yeah.
like that.
I think the breadcrumbs come through in 2018 in Ragnarok, but
Yeah,
like to actually be able to experience it would be nice.
it would be a very unique experience. I think going backwards, kind of like watching Better Call Saul before Breaking Bad or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
true.
side reference. We're a gaming
Yeah,
podcast.
no, that would be pretty cool, and I think you're right on the money there. I think we probably do see that announced, and yeah, I can see that being like a Halo MCC kind of, or what do they have, the Uncharted collection, that kind of package
The
for God of
Lost
War.
Thieves, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, give us the GOW God of War collection plus the Gears of War collection. That's the other one we need.
Oh, dude, a Gears of War
That's the other one
collection
we
would go
need.
so hard. That would go so fucking hard.
We need both of them. We
I'm
need both of
actually
them.
more hyped for a Gears of War remaster than I'm a God of War remaster. Probably because I already have the God of War games. But Gears of War, oh, it will go so hard. Anyway,
Give us both.
give us both.
All right. Well, speaking of things that we want, let's talk about things that we really want to see at this show, but we don't really think there's any chance of them happening. Start us off.
Well, I'm gonna go with the one that I think is they just can't happen. It won't ever happen. But a man can dream. I'm going with a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance 2.
So, fill me. So I know that you love this game. It's a spin-off to the Metal Gear series, correct?
It's the best Metal Gear game of all time.
Uh huh. And and has there ever been any word on a sequel to this game being made?
The only word that has been on a sequel to this game is that it's never going to happen.
Okay, so we really don't think this is ever going to happen. But what you would love to see is just for that announcement to come up on screen and them to like come out and be like, "We lied, guys. It's happening,"
Yeah, I
and
mean,
you'd be freaking out.
I don't think there would be a moment in my entire life that would be better than seeing the word slash number Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance 2 come up at the Game Awards. I don't see how anything that could ever happen in my life usurp that. Um, I mean, I could
That's
speak.
quite sad.
I mean, we're on a gaming podcast, man. Like, what'd you expect? But yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I think Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance 1 is severely and criminally underrated. I mean, you've seen me play this game. I mean, just pick it up and just immediately be locked in for hours.
It's very
Uh,
cool the slashing physics. Like you like cut things up and like it actually follows where your sword is and like
yeah,
chops them.
yeah.
Dices everything up. You can just dice up like
Zendatsu.
whole vehicles and shit, can't you?
Yeah, man, go play Fruit Ninja. You can they leave watermelons for you to chop up. They leave everything for you to chop up. You can chop up everything. It's supremely replayable.
It
The
is cool.
combat system is very very unique. It's very very fresh. I mean, it's a great Steam Deck game as well. It runs best on Steam Deck. It's kind of a trek to get it run on your PC, but obviously you can play it backwards compatible on Xbox. And I won't speak on it too much because I know I could go down a rabbit hole about all its mechanics. Um, but yeah, if you haven't played it yet, I would highly, highly recommend that you go do play it, especially if you're a fan of the hack and slash genre. If you love your Devil May Cries, you love your Bayonettas, you love your God of Wars, it, you would be it would be a crime to miss out on Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. So go play it. This is just I picked
Right
this.
before the sequel drops.
I picked this Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance 2 as an anticipated game, knowing it would never happen, just so I could speak on it for a little bit in this podcast, shamelessly. So go play
Yeah. Sounds like exactly what you would do. So
it. Okay, what
I'd
do you
ruin that.
anticipate?
I think I have a slightly more realistic, but I still don't think it's happening.
Yep.
And this one's very timely because we just got this, or we're about to get Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Uh huh.
What do you think I'm about to say? What do I want to see? You should know this.
Fuck, something Star Wars related.
No, I want to see Wolfenstein 3. I want
Oh.
to see Wolfenstein 3. So,
Yes, yes.
Wolfenstein the New Colossus and Wolfenstein the New Order and Wolfenstein 2 the New Colossus, two massively underrated shooters from the 2010s.
I need to go play 'em.
And yeah, they're really good. You know, they're made by Machine Games, and the reason, yeah, they just made this Indiana Jones game. And those are two awesome shooters. And Wolfenstein 2 in particular has an absolutely insane story. I can't even say why it's insane because that would be a massive spoiler. But about halfway through the game, something just absolutely crazy happens, and you can't really believe that you're actually watching it. Um, but it's extremely entertaining, and then from there, the story just keeps on getting crazier. Uh, you you know, the premise is that you're fighting the Nazis after they won World War II,
Very cool
and
premise.
you know the story takes you, let's say, to places that are not on this planet,
Ooh,
and there are giant robot Nazi dogs, and there are yeah. I mean, I'll leave it there. I don't want to spoil the craziest parts of the game, but it's a pretty crazy story. But like surprisingly, it actually has a very good emotional core. You actually genuinely care for the main character, BJ Blazkowicz, and his kind of the characters around him. So it's humorous, but it's actually genuinely like a compelling story. So Wolfenstein 2 ends on a big cliffhanger. It's teasing kind of like this idea of like an all-out war, right? Like a revolution kind of starting, and we never got to see the conclusion to that. We got Youngblood, which was not a very good game, and it was set kind of 30 years later, and it hints at some of the things that you might see in a Wolfenstein 3. Um, it gives you some hints about what happened after Wolfenstein 2, and some of those things sound very exciting, and I would love to play them. So please, Indiana Jones is out. It got great reviews. By all accounts, it seems like the best Indiana Jones story since the original trilogy of films. But now you're done with Indiana Jones. Please finish the Wolfenstein trilogy. Give me Wolfenstein 3. I really want it. We don't get enough good single player shooters.
so Wolfenstein 1 is required reading before Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, you need to play both. There's
Yeah,
also a spin off called The Old Blood. I would say that's more optional. It's like
yeah.
a prequel to Wolfenstein 1. It's good. I don't think it's as good as the two main games, but some people like it more. Um, but my favorite was Wolfenstein 2, which is maybe not the popular opinion, but I think the gameplay in that one's a step up.
Yep.
And the story is just so crazy and so entertaining. I was just gripped. So give us Wolfenstein 3, please. Finish the trilogy.
You heard the man.
Yep, I'm begging. We're both begging. This is just the begging section. So continue begging for me. What's your next beg? What do you want?
I'm begging for Sekiro 2, plain and simple.
Sekiro 2. Yes. Aren't we
So
both?
you're currently playing through Sekiro for the second time, correct?
Yep.
Um,
Correct.
on and off because you've got other games that we won't talk about just yet.
Yeah.
Um, and for anyone that completed the all the endings, there is a specific ending which teases maybe a broader landscape, let's say, for Sekiro, your main protagonist, Wolf, to go travel. Um, I think a lot of that was planned for DLC, which we never got. I think famously, it's one of the few From Software games that never received any DLC. I think the only other one that received no DLC was Demon Souls, but that's got a full remake now.
Yeah.
So we need more Sekiro.
We do.
Plain and simple.
We do.
It has one of the best combat systems of all time. It's got an extremely fun world to explore. It's got some of the best boss fights in gaming, period. Full stop. And the fact that we never got a DLC, because DLCs in FromSoft games are like end game content. So
Yeah.
the fact that we never got a DLC to really push the limits of that game's mechanics, like really, I know they push it. I know they push it very, very much. But the fact that we never got to push it in the way that the Bloodborne's mechanics were pushed in some of the boss fights in that DLC, and the old Hunters DLC, for example, all the way that Dark Souls One and Artorias, that sort of boss fight. The fact that we never got that for Sekiro is a damn shame, a damn shame, and a travesty, and a crime. So I want Sekiro 2, and I want it now.
Yeah.
But we're not. We're
I
likely
guess.
not getting it now.
Yeah. The closest we got was that free update that added like
The gauntlets.
Iteration,
Yeah,
Inner Father, Inner Genitro, and
yeah.
those do push the mechanics, but like it would, yeah,
I want to
obviously,
see. I want to see him get as crazy with it. Very
yeah,
crazy with
yeah,
it.
yeah. Where's the Millennia of Sekiro?
Where's the Millennium? You know what? They should just drop Millennium Sekiro. I think there's a mod on
Modders have done
PC.
it. The
Yeah,
modders have done it.
I think that
Yeah,
would be super fun actually.
yeah. I
Millennia is
think
a,
she's a good Sekiro boss.
Millennia was the boss that was meant to be in the Sekiro DLC. Hot take.
Yeah, there you go. Heard it here first.
They reused.
Well, what are you saying?
They reused her for Elden Ring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm happy you brought up Sekiro 2 because my wish was something on From Software's next game. So so maybe a little bit broader, but uh, we have had Shadow of the Erd-Tree this year. Last year we got Armored Core 6, which was announced at the Game Awards for 2022, the same year that Elden Ring released. Um, and also, we had, let's see, Elden Ring was announced in 2019, the
Hmm.
same year that Sekiro released, and Sekiro was announced at the Game Awards in 2017. Just a year after Dark Souls 3, and I think probably the same year that the Dark Souls 3 DLCs dropped,
Yeah,
maybe.
probably.
So very very close. So like, yes, From Software have just dropped a massive expansion, which is basically a full game. And yes, they dropped a game last year, and yes, they dropped a game the year before that. But they're clearly very efficient at making games, and it's again probably pretty unlikely, but maybe it's not fully out of the realm of possibility that we see their next game. As to again, what I'd like to see, I would love to see a Sekiro 2 as well. Even if it's more of a spiritual successor, because I know that FromSoft don't love doing sequels. So even if
Yeah,
it's like it's mechanically a sequel, but story wise and setting wise, it's completely different. Totally fine with that.
yeah, for sure. I
But,
think I'd be
but
fine.
I,
We'd
I
be fine with anything from soft drops if they drop something.
exactly, I'll take anything
We'll take anything.
if it's an Elden Ring 2, which it sounds like it's not going to be. But if it's more of a Soulsy kind of game, or maybe they take some of the mechanics from Bloodborne and they pull inspiration from there again, I
Yeah,
would love to see anything on what their next kind of Souls style game is going to be. I would love some kind of fusion of the Souls style gameplay with the Sekiro kind of focus on parrying, but you still have the build variety of the Souls series. I don't know how well that would work, but I would love to see them try, and also have some of that like exploration that Elden Ring and maybe the original Dark Souls had. I would love to see them kind of fuse all their different games together and just um, really mess around with all the different mechanics that they've developed and try to put them all into one game.
yeah. I mean, they're masters of their craft. So whatever they do come up with next,
Hmm.
I'm sure we'll love it.
Yeah. And my other take on that note is Bloodborne remake, please. I said last week in the podcast that I was going to start Bloodborne next. I started Bloodborne right after that, and now I'm 10 hours deep and I'm hooked. So give me a Bloodborne remake. This game should not be stuck in 30 frames per second. It should not be stuck at whatever crappy resolution it's at on the PS4. Put it to 60, put it to 4K, up the textures, up the lighting, make it really, really pretty. Give us a Bloodborne remake.
What's crazy about Bloodborne's 30 FPS is that it's a rough 30 FPS. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not even on the. I've played on PS5 recently, and you're playing on it now. So maybe you have a different experience too. My experience was, it's a very jittery 30 frames.
yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I think Bloodborne remake is an absolute slam dunk. I think it's been a common theme
And
across
it's
our podcast so
absolutely
far.
not going to happen.
I think it'll happen with the PS6. I think Miyazaki
Yeah,
is
yeah.
very with remakes of his games. I think there's an interview he did where the generational leap between the original game and the remake needs to be somewhat sufficient to justify the remake. My
Yeah,
counter to the great Miyazaki is you dropped Dark Souls Remastered right after Dark Souls 1 because Blighttown was fucked. Why can't you do the same with Bloodborne? That's all I'm saying.
I know. I agree. I don't. I again, it's not going to happen at this show, but please, one day, if it did happen at this show, I'd
I think
freak
it'll
out,
be a
and we'd
PS6
spend
remake.
3 hours talking about it.
I think it'll be Blue Point's next game or something like that. I don't know if they're working on
I
anything.
think they're working on their
Ah,
own
okay.
game, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But anyway, From Software next game, Sekiro 2, or whatever else they want to do. We're gonna love it. We're gonna be excited if we get to see it. Mark, what's your final game that you'd love to see?
Well, the final game I'd like to see, but is a pipe dream, and I've ordered this. Oh, sorry, actually, I haven't ordered this, but I think this is the most unlikely game to appear, which is funny
I totally disagree with you.
Because Metal Gear Rising will never happen. I think the most unlikely game to appear, but the game I want the most is Silk Song, Hollow Knight Silk Song, which is a game that exists, but for whatever reason has gone completely AWOL. So, full reference, I think Xbox did a showcase, and the tagline of that showcase was all the games you're about to see are going to release in the next 12 months. I think from that showcase, it's been 2.5 years, 3 years maybe, and we have not received any update on Silksong. I think I've talked about it before, with
Yeah.
Silksong probably being my most anticipated game. Hollow Knight 1 is a truly fantastic Metroidvania and probably the best I've played. And I've played a
Yep.
fair few at this point. I think Hollow Knight easily takes the cake for me in terms of, the world building, its mechanics, its bosses, its overall artistic style, its music. Everything is just so perfect about that game. The way, and
Hmm.
again, the key part of Metroidvania is how the world links together and how you open new paths. And some of the
Yep.
mechanics they introduce um, are super, super creative. And the ideas they have in terms of that overall structure of Hollow Knight. Anyone that's played Hollow Knight and got to the City of Tears part, the music there hits absolutely so, so good. Gets me quite emotional, actually. Just joking. But yeah, it's Hollow Knight Silk Song, another slam dunk. Just very keen to see what they've got cooking. But as I say, I have absolutely no hope that that it will come. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. That community is going rabid at
I
this
mean,
point.
there's a Twitter account that I follow that talks about days since Hollow Knight's has Hollow Knight Silk Song come out yet,
Eh.
and we're sitting at a very long counter right now.
It's like it reminds me of when the Souls community was waiting for news on Elden Ring for like 2 years.
Oh, I think it's been long. I think it's been a lot longer now because they did extended gameplay trailers and Nintendo showcases. Like we're talking 15, 20 minutes of gameplay that I've watched, and this
Yeah.
was like 3 or 4 years ago. So
That's crazy.
surely it's in development hell. Like there's no other explanation really, unless there's going to
It's
be
a really small team, right? It's like 3 people.
yeah, they're based out of Adelaide as well,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Shout out Australia.
Yep.
But you know what? As long as it doesn't get cancelled, keep cooking. Keep taking your time. I'm happy to wait as long as I need, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I feel like this is the kind of game where when it eventually releases, it's going to be really good.
There's enough Metroidvanias to hold me over until then. Like currently, I'm playing a game on the Switch called Nine Souls, which is really good. But obviously, I can already tell it's not going to be to Hollow Knight's level, but still fun
Yeah.
game. So there are plenty of Metroidvanias to keep people going. So take your time. Not like they're going to
Yeah.
listen to this, but yeah,
Well, we'll all be praying, all us people who haven't played Hollow Knight, for you guys, so that you can
go play Hollow Knight
chill out and finally have Silk Song
for sure.
announced, or some kind. Well, it's been announced, but some kind of news on it, some kind of trailer, a release date. That's
Our
what everyone
release date
wants.
would be wonderful. Yeah, even if it's 2, 3 years from now, just give people something to look forward to. I
Give
think
something to
everyone,
hold on.
yeah, I think everyone's just a bit nervous that it's again in development hell and
Yep.
potentially going to get cancelled.
Yep.
I think that's the main,
Well,
not the fact that it hasn't come out. I think people are happy to wait.
yeah. Yeah. Just give us an update.
Yeah,
So yeah. Yep. So game that is confirmed to be in development and has shown 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay before. is the most unlikely to show up at the showcase.
hundred
Makes
percent,
sense. Makes
hundred,
sense.
100%.
So I've got one more
Yep,
before we kind of close this section out here.
lay it on me.
My big wish, which again is very, very unlikely, but there's a glimmer of hope. Half-Life 3. We've been waiting for Half-Life 3 for, what are we at, 17 years?
Yeah,
But recently, there's been momentum. We had Half-Life Alyx, which I'm not going to spoil the ending, but for anyone who doesn't know, Half-Life Alyx does push the story forward from that famous 2007 cliffhanger.
no
It pushes
spoilers.
it forward a tiny bit. It pushes it forward the tiniest little bit, but in a way that actually opens up a lot of new possibilities for a potential Half-Life 3.
Yeah,
So, um, so I I hate to to say that like so I want to say that Valve wouldn't do that unless they were planning on really following up and delivering. But it's also Valve who left us with a cliffhanger for like 13 years and then pushed it forward the tiniest little bit. Um, so it's entirely possible that they will never follow up on that cliffhanger. But there's been some news recently. I think I talked about this on the podcast before um, that it seems like from some of the kind of like data mined code within Valve's new multiplayer game Deadlock, there's a lot of code which is seemingly actually unrelated to Deadlock itself, but it's sitting there because it's in that engine, and it seems to be related to a game called HLX, which people are speculating is a kind of full-fledged Half-Life game, probably a Half-Life 3. And also, we recently had Valve, make a big deal out of Half-Life 2's 20th anniversary. They talked about some of their failed plans for Episode 3. They even showed some kind of work-in-progress gameplay for Episode 3 that was eventually cancelled. So Valve actually seemed to be quite open about, Half-Life. Half-Life is back with Alex. They said they're not scared of working on Half-Life anymore. They have shown us gameplay of the game they cancelled, and I really just want to hope that they wouldn't have done that unless they actually were working on a Half-Life 3. The tricky part is Half-Life 3 they've worked on like multiple times over the past decade, and it's been cancelled because they just never kind of got it there. But it seems like maybe this time it really has the momentum to get to the finish line. And if that's true, I would love to see it announced at this show, but I don't think now's the time.
yeah. I don't think it's as unlikely as you think. I
I
think,
don't think it's likely for this show, but I think in the
yeah,
next few years we will see a Half-Life 3 announced.
yeah. I think we're both in agreement that Half-Life 3 will happen. Um,
Hopefully, will happen.
just a question of if. I mean,
I think it's
yeah.
in development. It's just a question of whether it gets to the finish line.
I think they could just release like a title card, Half-Life 3, and people will get hyped. I reckon they could do that.
People lose their minds.
Yeah, like the Elder Scrolls 6.
This would be like on the level of like, yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 getting unveiled. I want to say GTA 6, but GTA 6 is probably bigger. But it's
Yeah,
it's
GTA
on
6 is bigger, yeah.
it's on the level of it's one of the biggest announcements that you could make.
Yeah, based off our chat last week, I went and have spent the week playing Half-Life 1, Black Mesa. I'm near the finish line, I think. I've just finished a mission called Zen, which was awesome.
Oh,
Really
you
great
are
mission.
getting close. You are getting close.
Oh,
Now
yes.
that's been remade in Black Mesa, so that's different to the original
Oh,
game.
really? I just love the vista so much. It kind of
It's
shocked me. It
pretty
was very wondrous. And yeah,
yeah,
it's a really, really good game. I really enjoyed it. Going to play Half-Life 2 next.
nice.
Definitely going to have that finished before Half-Life 3 so I can join in your excitement a bit more.
And you have a VR headset, so you can actually play Alex.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm jealous.
I'm gonna have to get the VR in the room to get the PC adapter. It's like I don't think I can fit. I don't know how it's gonna work.
Yeah, but if there's any game you want to play in VR, it's Half-Life Alex.
Oh, for sure. But I don't know. I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole. But VR's not for me, really.
Yeah, I
I
don't
actually get
know.
motion
Not for
sickness.
me either, but I would do it for Alex. It seems like an awesome game.
I think I'll resort to just watching a walkthrough of Alex. Probably.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's the best option. Is that what you did?
I've just seen like I kind of know the story and I've
Ah,
seen
okay.
the ending.
Yeah. I might
I've
do
watched
something
all of them.
similar. I don't know if I'm gonna force myself to play VR for Half-Life, but we'll see. It's apparently meant to be very, very good though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. All right. Mark, we're running at about an hour here.
Yep.
How would you like to do this? Would you like to wrap it up here, or would you like to continue with
Let's
a bit of free
continue.
talk?
Let's continue with a bit of free talk. Let's get to an hour 15ish.
All right, let's do it. So, you proposed a pretty interesting free talk topic for the week.
Yep.
You said let's each name our top 5 developers.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to kick it off? Do you have them in order? Because
I've
actually,
got
I'm
them in
I'm
order.
sorry, mine are not in order, but I
That's
can
fine.
name the number one for you at least.
Yeah, I'll do mine in order. Um,
Go for it. Hit me with all 5. Go from 5 to 1.
okay, number 5. I've got Platinum Games. I will not field any questions yet.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm gonna go Naughty Dog.
Yep.
Number 3, I'm gonna go Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I'm gonna go From Software.
Yep.
And number 1, I'm gonna go Capcom.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Cool. So, I mean, I have a few questions.
Yep.
Obviously, you've got Platinum Games on there because of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Oh, but they've got a really deep catalog as well. I mean,
Okay.
their main thing has always been hack and slash games, which obviously I'm a very very big fan of. If you couldn't
Which other
tell
ones of
already.
theirs have you played?
So I've played Bayonetta,
Mm-hmm.
which I really enjoyed. Unfortunately, they went Nintendo exclusive, so I've never got the opportunity to play 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I do have a Switch, so I could play them. But I feel like they wouldn't run very well. But apparently, Bayonetta 2 is the absolute peak of that series, so maybe I need to go experience that. And they've also got a game which I hold very dear to my heart called Vanquish. I don't know if you've ever heard of Vanquish.
I've never heard of Vanquish.
Vanquish is this third person action game. It's a shooter, so stylish, and it's just incredible fun. I used to play it a lot back in the 360 era, and it is probably my favorite games of all time. And what inspired me to maybe try out Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, just because I saw that platinum sticker and I was like, oh, dude, it's gonna be a banger. But you can probably tell from watching me play Metal Gear Rising for a couple hours, their sort of style of games,
Yep.
very bombastic, very outlandish, very creative, and also very linear and small in scope, which I really, really appreciate in games sometimes, and maybe we don't get as much. We get a lot of bloated, um,
Yeah, we do. Too
incredibly
long.
long games. But
Repetitive.
yeah, Platinum games are lean,
Short and
mean,
sweet.
lean and mean. You know,
Yeah.
they're short, but it's packed with creativity. There's the pacing of their games are breakneck. Um, and maybe they don't have as deep a catalog as some of the other big hitters. Like saying I prefer Platinum Games over fucking Rockstar might be crazy to some people, but yeah, I mean, I think their sorts of games are kind of hard to find in the industry right now, and they deserve a shout out in the top 5, and one of my personal favorites.
Nice. Well, obviously you had FromSoft at number 2. I don't think we need to talk about From Software. We talk about them too much.
Yeah, yeah,
We clearly
they speak
love
for
those games.
themselves. They speak for
Speak for
themselves.
themselves. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm interested in you having Santa Monica above Naughty Dog.
yeah, that's touch and go, but for
That's
me,
pretty tough one.
yeah, the God of War franchise for me pips the strongest franchises of Naughty Dog, although one could argue Naughty Dog have both Uncharted and Last of Us, so they got
Yeah.
a bit more variety. But I think the God of War series to me clears both of them, and had more of a
Yep.
lasting impact. I mean, the God of War series is the whole reason I got into like mythology in general, and
Yeah.
you can genuinely learn off the God of War games, which is crazy, but you know,
Hmm.
you learn a lot about the Greek and Norse mythology
You
from those
learn that
games.
the Thor doesn't actually look like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, I mean, crazy stuff, riveting stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. No,
I
that.
think the God of War series just pips it for me, and so I go with them very
Fair.
closely.
I mean, yeah. I think out of like Sony's studios, like those two are definitely the top two, right? Like,
Yeah, you'd have to
and
say.
it's down to personal preference, I think, for most people which one they prefer. But like those are the two studios where you know when they release something, it's not going to be high 80s. It's going to be 90s.
It's going
Like
to
it's
be
going to be
nice, yeah.
really good. Yeah.
One other Sony
Um,
studio that I'm really looking forward to the next game is Housemarque. They did Returnal. Returnal was
yeah,
excellent.
underrated. Hey,
Underrated. Underrated as fuck. Yep.
yeah, it's a good call.
hmm
And then Capcom. So I know that you're a big fan of Capcom games. So which of the franchises that put them up at number one for you there?
Oh man, I think the reason they're number one is I think their portfolio of games is super super diverse. I mean, we talked all of last week about Devil May Cry, so I think everyone knows how
Yeah,
much I love that series. I'm not going to
don't
touch
do
on
it
that at
again.
all. But I've been playing through the Resident Evil series. So I've played two, I've played four, I've played
Mhm.
five, I've played
Mhm.
seven, I've played eight, and I've got all of them on my Steam library. I'm going to go through them in order. And all those games, I haven't played a bad one yet. Um,
Yeah.
Truly, truly excellent. I mean, I'm not sure if you recall, but last year or the year before, I got very deep into Street Fighter 6, which was,
Yeah.
again, I've never touched a fighting game in my life, but the onboarding process in that game, introducing new players, was really, really good. Again, really stylish. You can tell it's a very high quality game. Unfortunately, I hit a skill ceiling, and it seems like you require a lot of hours to get good at to get good at Street Fighter. So I kind of jumped off.
Yeah, I
But
can imagine.
they've got several long-running franchises that have spanned decades that they've maintained a certain quality bar. I think that puts them at number one.
Yeah.
But I mean, FromSoft's just behind them in terms of quality. So
Yeah.
a consistent quality, I should say. Like they haven't done it for decades yet. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, Capcom have been on fire, right? Because didn't they had a bit of a down period with they had like didn't
Resident Evil
Resident Evil kind
6.
of go into a bit of a slump, right? And then it came
Yeah.
back with 7.
Yeah, 6. I'm actually really I'm looking for someone to play 6 with. No one will play it with me. I want to play it with someone. It's meant to be the absolute like they went full action mode
Yeah.
with four different campaigns that were all super actiony, and it was like really long, which is crazy for a Resident Evil game. Like 7
Yeah.
and 8, I finished both in under 10 hours.
Yeah.
And they should not be a second longer, mind you. So
Yeah.
30-hour Resident Evil game seems a bit crazy. But I'm still looking for someone to play it with because I just want just for completionist sake, I guess. But then they came right after 7, and 7 completely redefined their series once again, a new era for
Yeah.
Resident Evil. And Resident Evil 7, I still to this day don't know how I beat it because that game is scary as shit, like proper creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's too scary for me. I don't think I could handle it.
It is a very scary game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
give me your
I'll
list.
give you I'll give you mine. Again, not in order except for number 1.
hmm
Um, and I also, because I'm too indecisive, I also had a few honorable mentions. So let me rattle those off. My
Yep.
honorable mentions are Respawn Entertainment, Insomniac, and Santa Monica.
Ooh.
So yeah, Santa Monica didn't quite make top 5, and that's really because I've only played from them God of War and God of War Ragnarok. So
Oh,
I haven't
2018. Yeah.
kind of 2018 and Ragnarok. So I haven't played the kind of back history of the series. So great games, but like there's a few studios where I've just played more of their games and I'm just a little bit more you know just love those studios a little bit more. So my kind of top my 2 to 5 in no particular order would be I've got id Software because I've raved about Doom. I think these guys are the best single player shooters in the business.
Yep.
Single player shooter developers in the business. Eternal, fantastic. Dark Ages, it's going to be fantastic. Um, yeah, id Software. They're yeah. I think all of these studios are just studios where when they release a game, I know that it's going to be great, and I know that I'm going to buy it on day one. And id Software, especially with Doom Eternal, really just solidified that for me. So yeah, id Software. I've got Valve,
Ooh.
and again, I've been raving about Half-Life on this podcast. But Valve has just so many absolute classic games like Portal, Left 4 Dead, obviously like Counter Strike. When I was younger, a lot of Team Fortress 2. So Valve has a really kind of varied portfolio of games, but most of the time, and Valve's had a few like kind of small scale misses, but most of the time when Valve release a game, you know it's going to be really, really good. Especially when they release a single player game, you know it's going to be a banger. Um, It's obviously the tricky part with being a big fan of Valve is like, these days they're so rich off Steam, they don't need to release games to make money. They do it out of passion, and sometimes that means that if they can't get the game 100% perfect, it'll never come out.
Half-Life
Case in
3.
point being, what's that?
Half-Life 2 Episode 3.
Yeah, or all the attempts at Half-Life 3 that they've made.
Yeah.
So it can be tough being a big fan of Valve because sometimes you just don't see games for a very long time. But again, with potentially Half-Life 3 on the horizon, I like Valve. Just that they're going to do something crazy innovative. They're going to do stuff that has not been done before in other shooters. Um, and yeah, if Half-Life 3 is announced, I cannot wait to see what they do with it. So Valve, absolutely up there, just one of the most innovative, high quality studios when they decide to make games. Another one, Rockstar, speak for themselves. Just for me, this is just like, and I don't even have that many hours in Rockstar games. Like I've played some GTA 4, I've played through GTA 5 single player, I've probably like 50 hours of it. Um, didn't get too far into Red Dead 2, but it's like besides the point. It's just that like Rockstar games are just they're like a level of their own, right?
Oh yeah, in terms of the quality of the games, you can tell that the production values of Rockstar games are unmatched.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're like second to none in terms of like just creating an immersive open world.
Yeah.
So yeah, like even though I don't have that many hours in Rockstar games, it's just like the experience of playing one. You always remember the first time you played like GTA 5 or GTA 4 or San Andreas. Like these games are just iconic and they're so good. And you're just gonna buy it when it comes out.
You know, one of the Rockstar games I really want to try out is Bully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, me too. Actually,
Never
I
got the opportunity to play Bully. It looks really fun.
think
Really
I think I
unique.
played that when I was very young on like a friend's PS2.
Yeah.
But
Steam Deck
yeah,
game. Seems like a perfect Steam Deck game.
yeah, if it runs on a Steam, I'm sure it does. If it's on Steam, yeah,
Yeah, it's on
that's a
Steam.
good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is a great idea. So yeah, Rockstar on there for me, and then my other unnumbered studio that maybe I'd put them at number two is Naughty Dog. And that's just because I love Uncharted, but I absolutely adore The Last of Us.
Great
I think
games.
The Last of Us games are like they're just they are like movies, but they're just they're another level of just like um, like cinematic quality, but also like The Last of Us Part Two especially is a surprisingly um, it's like it has really surprisingly great gameplay. Like
Yeah,
I
they
think
really
people
push it.
underplay how good the gameplay in that game is.
You know, something really interesting that I always kind of think about. So I think I mentioned earlier in the podcast that the Ghost of Tsushima came out maybe a couple months after The Last of Us 2.
Yeah,
Um, and The Last of Us 2's production quality is so, so good that once I
yeah,
finished off The Last of Us 2 and went to go play Ghost of Tsushima, I noticed when I talked to NPCs, the screen would fade to black.
yeah,
I was like, what the fuck is this? Because
yeah.
I was so spoiled of how good The Last of Us 2's production was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll one up you on that one. I went from The Last of Us Part 2 to Horizon Zero Dawn. And I know Horizon has its fans, and I probably poop on Horizon a little bit too much. But everyone can agree that the facial animations in the original Horizon Zero Dawn before it got remastered,
Yep.
they were awful. They were
Yeah.
so bad. And honestly, the voice acting was terrible as well. So you go from The Last of Us Part 2, which is like the pinnacle of video game presentation, to
Confirmed.
Horizon. Yeah.
Confirmed. The Chop It Up Gaming podcast is against Ubisoft open world games.
Yeah. Can't deny it. But I'm a big fan of Horizon because whenever they release a Horizon game, you actually get a better game right after it.
Oh,
You get
okay.
Breath of the Wild or you get Elden Ring.
It hasn't happened this year. We got freaking Lego Horizon. What happened? What's the game that came out with Lego Horizon?
Maybe it's
Ma-
Indiana Jones. Maybe that's the game.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true,
No,
true.
not quite the same. But
I think
yeah. So
the
whenever Horizon 3 drops, we'll get like we'll get something good.
I think Lego Horizon means we're getting a FromSoft announcement at the Game Awards.
Lego Elden Ring.
Lego Elden Ring. Perfect. There you go. Oh, that would be so good. Don't get me started on Lego Elden Ring. What's your number
Yeah.
one?
Oh, you know it's From Software.
Yeah,
So
just wanted to hear you say it.
obvious. Yeah, like I'm not gonna go on about it because I've done it enough on this podcast. But
Yeah.
From Software started with Elden Ring. Now I'm hooked. I played Elden Ring 5 times. I've played the DLC twice. I've played Dark Souls 1. I've played Dark Souls 3. I've played Sekiro. I'm playing through Sekiro again, and now I'm addicted to Bloodborne.
Wait till you
Need I
get to
say
Dark
more?
Souls 2, the absolute pinnacle of FromSoft.
We'll see. But yeah, From Software, Souls series, and I need to play Armor Core 6 as well because that's supposed to be awesome.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, very fun. I need to finish that off actually. I'm very close to the end. Need to polish that one
yeah,
off. But yeah, I think your list was really interesting.
I
Valve
feel
is a
like my
great
list
shout.
was very it was not very surprising. Like this is like if you polled people, like you probably get my list.
Yeah, I think Valve was a great shout. I mean, personally, I can tell the quality of Black Mesa, which technically not Valve, but really it is Valve. I need to get deeper into their portfolio of games. I'm very keen to do so because right after I finish Half-Life, I've got all of Half-Life 2 to look forward to.
Yeah.
Um, I think the one we would probably disagree on the most is probably Rockstar. I mean, I can tell the quality of the games.
Yeah.
I've just never felt their gameplay has been super good personally, which is
For me, it hinges on just that world
yeah.
of GTA
I,
and
I
how
think
much like
I think
fun
it
you can
yeah.
have in the sandbox.
It shows the difference in probably priority for us in games. I mean, I think the core
Yeah,
gameplay loop is so important to me.
that's
Um,
fair.
which yeah, obviously just different blokes, different strokes.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, Insomniac is a very good shout. They're very efficient in their games,
Yeah.
and they've got
Yeah.
a very good portfolio. They like
They
with
pump out.
Resistance as well, man. Imagine they remade Resistance or just rebooted it. Sorry, Resistance
Yeah.
2 was so good. Um,
They just pump out high quality games.
yeah, and yeah, Naughty
But
Dog.
I actually want to give a call out to Respawn because
Oh yeah,
Respawn,
yeah.
yeah, they've made some of my favorite games. They made Titanfall, like one of the best shooters ever, right? Like along with Titanfall 2. They made Apex, which has plenty of haters, but you know, I played that game for 5 years. It was the only multiplayer game I played for 5 years, and it's easily the best battle royale game, especially when it released.
It is the
And
only battle royale game I've ever got into.
yeah, and people like actually don't appreciate how much that game changed the battle royale genre. Like
Yeah.
it was just really PUBG, Apex, and PUBG, Fortnite, and Apex. Then Apex came out with like the respawn system. Everyone copied that.
Mm.
Apex comes out with its like really fast-paced movement system. Then soon after, every game has sliding in it.
Yeah.
Like um, Apex really actually did a lot in the BR genre,
Yeah.
and it's still one of the best playing. It just has really sweaty matchmaking.
I'd really love to see them take on like a new Titanfall game. And what's crazy about
Yeah.
Titanfall 2 to me is that
Oh, that should have been one of my
yeah,
announcements. Titanfall 3.
Titanfall 1 had no campaign, right?
Yeah.
How do you go from thinking that you don't need a campaign into your shooter game to then making the sequel and then making one of the best first person shooter campaigns of all time? That is
I'll,
crazy.
I'll tell you how, because it's a bunch of ex Infinity War devs
Yeah.
who obviously knew that Call of Duty, everyone really buys it for the multiplayer.
Yeah.
But then they did that to save money, and then I think they realized, obviously everyone said we want a campaign, and
Yeah.
then they're like, okay, we'll give you a campaign, but because we're like ex Infinity War, we'll make it really damn good because that's all we know
Really
how to
good.
do.
Like shockingly
Yeah,
good. For a
that's all we know
game
how to do is make good games.
for a game that meant to come out for the multiplayer, like that's meant to be the main driving force. When you have a campaign that good, like it blows any
Yeah,
Call of Duty campaign out of the water that I personally played. I haven't played many,
yeah,
to be
it's
clear,
so good.
before people kill me. I haven't played many Call of Duty campaigns, but
Yeah,
Titanfall's 2 campaign. Oof.
it's so good.
That mission where you've got like that time wristwatch thing and you're zip
Yeah,
zapping between different times.
yeah,
Crazy. So
yeah.
much fun.
Yeah, and then I mean the other thing with Respawn is I want to call out the Jedi games. They're good. They're really good. And like as a Star Wars fan, they're some of the best Star Wars stories in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So
I
they're
really
really
enjoyed.
good as a Star Wars fan. The gameplay, like, it's not as tight as a Souls game, and they've both released pretty buggy, which is a shame, and that's why Respawn wasn't on my top five because these Star Wars games especially have been pretty buggy, and Apex is quite buggy at the moment. But the core mechanics and the core game that Respawn releases, they're really good.
Yeah. I thought Fallen Order is one of the best Souls likes I've played.
Yeah,
Very, very good.
yeah. It's very good. It's like just that bugginess that just Respawn, I guess, just at the
Yeah, but
moment
it feels
doesn't
a bit
necessarily
janky
have the
sometimes.
polish.
Yeah, yeah, it does feel
Yeah,
a bit janky.
they don't quite have the polish of these other studios, so that's why they didn't make my top five. But I love their games.
Yeah, for sure.
I love their games. All right, Mark. Well, I think we might wrap it up there. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you wanted to add on that discussion, or
No, I think we've covered a lot today.
yeah?
Um, and yeah, I mean, when's the Game Awards stream? When is it exactly?
It's in for America. It's the 12th of December, so it's a week from when we're recording this. So we're recording this on Friday, the 6th of December in Australia.
Yeah.
The Game Awards is the 13th in Australia, so about a week away.
And I think I already know the answer to this, and people that have listened to us this much so far probably know the answer as well. But I wanted to quickly ask you, what are you playing for this week?
I'm playing Bloodborne.
Of course you are.
And
Have
what are you
fun.
playing? Black
Path
Mesa.
of Exile 2 early access drops 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'm logging in, boys,
Very nice.
for
And you're
some
also playing the
ARPG.
new Zombies map on COD, and you're also
Ah,
finishing Black Mesa.
Black Mesa, I think I'm on the last. I'll finish off Black Mesa tonight. Probably run the Zombies map tonight, and then tomorrow,
Nice.
Path of Exile 2 day begins.
Wow, busy boy.
Busy,
Well,
busy.
this has been episode 3 of the Chop It Up Gaming podcast. We are two mates who like to talk video games way too much, and we hope that people are listening to us. If you made it to the end of this episode and you enjoyed what we had to say, please leave a comment. Please like it. Please, like this on YouTube. Please rate it 5 stars wherever you're listening to it.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, and tell your friends, because if you tell your friends and they enjoy it, then we get to share our bad opinions with more and more people, and that makes this more fun. The more people that we can talk to, potentially annoy, and maybe people actually care what we have to say. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's been it. You can find us at Chop It Up Gaming on Instagram and Twitter, the Chop It Up Gaming podcast on YouTube, and also the Chop It Up Gaming podcast on Spotify. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. All right. Well, this has been Chop It Up Gaming Podcast episode 3. We will see you next week with our reactions to the Game Awards.
Perfect. See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.